You might have heard me say that it is profitable to keep you financially stupid. Well, I just found a new example to show you exactly what I mean. Take a look. This is an article from CNBC that says card issuers, meaning credit card companies, refer to customers as deadbeats if they pay off their balances for their credit cards in full each month, avoiding interest charges and fees on their accounts. Based on that logic, let me show you what it means to be a non-deadbeat. The average household in America with credit card debt has $7,951 of credit card debt. And as of March 2024, the average APR on this credit card debt is 24.5%. It's actually a little bit over 24.5%, but I'm going to be generous and round down. If you make the minimum monthly payment of $165 a month, well, guess what? You will pay $25,700 in interest. Meaning, to pay off your $7,951, it will cost you more than $33,000 over the course of 17 years to be debt-free on this credit card debt. This is what it means to not be a deadbeat in the eyes of a credit card company. I mean, just read the second line of the article. Paying off your credit card is a healthy financial habit, but who wants that? Because it makes you less profitable for the credit card companies. But this is just the beginning. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America made $2.2 billion last year from overdraft fees. That means that those three banks alone made billions of dollars last year because you spent money you didn't have. And because you spent money you didn't have, you had to give the banks money when you didn't have money in the first place. Does anybody see something wrong here? This is where there are two very important topics that I want you, actually need you to understand. Number one is how you can use the system to your advantage. And number two is that it is profitable to keep you broke. So let me start by talking about number one, how you can use the system to your advantage. And I should also let you know that on April 2nd, 2024, I'm hosting a live virtual and free real estate investing workshop where I'm going to be going over my own real estate investing strategies. So if you've been thinking about investing your money in real estate and you want to see how you can do it, especially in this economy, I'll be going over my own strategies, how you build a good team, how you find a good property, how you actually make money on the property, and how you can maximize your profits. It's a completely free workshop and you will be able to ask me questions, but make sure you register soon because there's a limited number of people that can actually join me live. So if you'd like to join me for this live and free virtual workshop, I got the link to how you can join me April 2nd, 2024 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time down in the description below. When most people hear this information about credit card companies and banks, the immediate reaction is they're evil, they're the devil, they're bad, they're this, they're that. But what I want you to understand is every single entity in the world, every single person in the world has an agenda. Period. Banks are in the business of lending you money. Credit card companies are in the business of lending you money. Corporations are in the business of selling you stuff. What you want to do is understand how these entities work. That way you can use it to your advantage. Because what we've talked about now is how when you're financially stupid, you're going to be used by the banks. You're going to be used by the credit card companies. And when you're used by them, you're going to be the person that's making them rich at your expense. But if we flip this up a little bit, if you know how to use the credit card, if you know how to use the bank, well, now you can use them to your advantage. For example, I only like spending money with my credit card. I don't really carry around any cash and I never carry a debit card. So when I spend money, I like to use my credit card. Now, I never carry a balance and I never pay any interest because I pay off my entire balance every month in full, every time. And the reason why is because when I use my credit card, I get cash back. I get perks like I get hotel upgrades, I get flight upgrades, I get rental car upgrades, I get free insurance on things, and I get that purchase protection on things as well. So there's a lot of benefits that you can get when you know how to use the system. It's the same with your bank. Well, guess what? When you're not using your bank to finance your Gucci, when you're not using your bank to finance other liabilities that you don't need to survive, well, now you can use your bank to your advantage. I mean, at the very base level, you could use your bank as a place to get some interest on your money. Now, this is not the best place to keep your money, but if you have a high interest savings account, which is like what I have, well, now you can get 3, 4, 5% a year in interest on your savings just for sitting there. Now, I have cash sitting there to protect me against an emergency. I have cash sitting there that's waiting to be invested. You have to have a place to store your cash, but if you know how to use the bank, now you can have the bank pay you instead of you paying the bank interest. Not just that, If you want to go down the debt route, which, you know what, this is for some people, not for everybody, but you can use debt the right way as well. Now, I am not an advocate of going out and taking debt to finance things that are going to lose you money, like a car or your clothes or a vacation. But if you wanted to go out and say buy rental properties, now you could use the bank to borrow money to make money, because if you can borrow money to buy a rental property, well, now this rental property can pay for your mortgage and put some money in your pocket, but you got to do it the right way. This is why I say all debt is bad debt, because even this quote-unquote good debt, which you're using to buy a rental property, can turn bad very quickly if you don't know how to use it and if you don't know how to manage it, which is why you got to be very cautious when you're using this type of debt. But if you understand the system, now you can learn how to use it to your advantage. It's the same thing with corporations. People will talk about how every corporation is a scam because they're trying to sell you stuff. No, duh. Every corporation in the world is trying to sell you something, because that's what businesses do. They try to sell their stuff. But now, the reason why people get upset is because they don't know how to say no. Because when you're walking down the street and somebody says, hey, do you want to buy this fridge? People feel attracted to pull out the credit card and say, yes, please take my money. No, don't give me the fridge. Yes, give me the fridge. People feel like they can't control their spending. But this has to now go to yourself. And how do you control what you do with your money? Businesses want to sell you things. Banks want to sell you debt. Credit card companies want to sell you more debt. And this is where you got to understand, well, you don't want to be the person that's making all these companies rich before you're rich. I want you to have the nice things. There's nothing wrong with that. I want you to make BMW rich. I want you to make Rolex rich, but I want you to do that after you are rich. I don't want you to make them rich at the expense of you being rich. See, if you want to have the nice things, that's fine. You got to give these companies money in order to have the nice things. But when you're giving them the money before you have any money, before you have any wealth, now your priorities are all in the wrong place. And that's where I want you to learn how to use the system by understanding how this stuff works. Because the problem is, right now, the average person is just making everybody else rich. And not just that, they're never going to have a chance to build wealth themselves, because not only are they giving their money to all these corporations, but then they're spending money they don't have through credit cards and through other loans. So now, even if they're kind of trying to buy the stuff with cash, you still got to pay everything else off plus interest. This is where you have to learn how to use the system the right way. And the second thing I want you to understand is that it is profitable to keep you financially dumb. It's profitable to keep you broke. And this is where you have to understand that everybody is going to have an agenda. And the best thing that you can do is build your financial education. The best example that I can give you of this is if something was wrong with your health, you don't feel good. You go to the doctor says, okay, we have to cut off half of your body because something's wrong with you. Before you go and let the doctor cut half your body off, go get a second opinion. Go get a third opinion. Go get a fourth opinion. The more education that you have, the better of a decision that you can make. It's the same thing with your money. See, most people, when they're making their financial decisions, the average person, who do they go to for their financial advice? It's not a financial advisor, it's their banker. And so now you're asking the banker, how big of a home should I buy? How nice of a car should I buy? And what do you think they're going to sell you? More. The more money you borrow, the more money they make. Now, even when it comes to a financial advisor, even if you use a financial advisor, which that's fine, you want to make sure you're at least financially educated enough to make sure that they're on the same page as you, that you have at least a base level of financial education so you can make sure that they're doing things in alignment with your own goals. And even when it comes to the government, you got to be a little cautious here to make sure that you're not relying on somebody else, even the government, which, look, I want to hope and pray that they have all of our interests in heart. But at the same time, you want to make sure you're looking out for yourself and your family, your community more than everybody else. What do I mean? Well, just take something like student loans. Everybody talks about how student loans are this huge crisis. It's this huge issue for young people. Millennials can't buy homes or they can't buy cars because of student loans, and that it's making it hard for young people to start investing their money and build wealth. Well, at the same time, the government is saying this, they also have student loans as their number one largest asset on their balance sheet. So when you look at this now, the United States government talks about how student loans are such a bad thing, but at the same time, these student loans are their largest asset. It is the number one largest asset by a long shot on their balance sheet, and that's what allows the government to continue spending the way that they do, is because they have this huge asset on their balance sheet that they can essentially borrow money against. That way they can continue spending their money like crazy. So what does this mean? Everybody has an agenda. Maybe you can't change the system, but you can change how you respond to it. Maybe you can't change how the world works, but you can change how you understand that the world works. That way you can win in this economic system. Because now at the end of the day, it's like arguing that gravity is there. Listen, gravity is here. Now you can either fight it, be upset about it, or learn that gravity is here and understand how you can win in a world with gravity. What I want you to understand is this is our economic system. Now you can use it to win and live a better life financially, or you can use it to complain and be the person that makes everybody else rich. And this now goes to your own financial responsibility of understanding that you got to take care of your own money, because nobody else is going to do that for you. Your boss isn't going to do it. Your government's not going to do it, and your mom's not going to do it for you either. I mean, maybe she will, but I don't think she will. And this is where now it is so important for you to become financially smart and invest in your own financial education, because the reality is once you start to understand this, you'll see this huge divide that once you start building your financial education, it becomes exponential. Now, not in the beginning, any exponential curve kind of goes like this. You got to go through this like phase of, I call it the decade of sacrifice, where you put in all this work, put in all this time, and putting this money in to build this wealth, and you really don't see any return. But once you start to see that curve go like this, it is, you start to see that upward inflection in the curve, and your wealth also starts to grow with it. And the reason is because you put in your time to learn, your knowledge compounds, but then you're also putting your money in, and your money compounds. And when your money makes money, you put that money in too, so that money compounds. And once all the stuff starts to really build, now you start to see that this machine, your wealth machine, starts to grow beyond you, but that requires you to take the first step to start building the mindset of building financial education, and then start putting in the steps to get out of this credit card debt, to stop making your banker rich, and then to start using your money to start investing. Then you start to work to earn more money, so you have more money to invest, and you put in the sacrifice of living below your means, so you have more money to invest, and you work to accumulate more assets, whether it's stocks, whether it's real estate. If you're interested in real estate, I have a real estate workshop for you down in the description. But you start to accumulate these assets. In the beginning, you don't see much change in your lifestyle. You don't really see much change in anything, even in your wealth, because you're just getting started. But you stick with it year after year after year after year after year. And after that decade, this is when you start to see that change. Now, what you'll see is this is a lifetime game. Being financially fit is a lifestyle. It's not something you do for 6 months. It's not something you do for 10 years. It's something you do for a lifestyle. But the more you stick with it, the easier it becomes. And the more you do it, the more it compounds. And this is where understanding that this is something that you have to commit to if you want to be able to live a life that most people dream of. Because if you want to be wealthy, if you want to be able to buy the nice things without worrying about the money, you're going to have to put in that sacrifice that most people are not willing to do. See, it's easy to go out and buy a BMW. It's easy to go out and buy a Rolex. Anybody will give you financing to buy these things. So it's easy to look like you're rich. But if you want to walk into the Rolex store, you want to walk into the BMW dealership, you want to find a $70,000 car, buy it cash, and then not really make any difference into your lifestyle because it was just a second thought, well, in order for you to get to that point, you're going to have to put in that sacrifice today. That way you can have all the nice stuff without worrying about the price. Now, once you get there, sure, go out and make Rolex rich. Sure, go out and make BMW rich. But the nice thing now is you're making them rich, but it's not at the cost of you being rich. You already made yourself rich, and now your assets can continue paying and funding for your lifestyle. But this requires you to change your mindset and to change what you do because, well, the system is designed to profit off of people that are not financially educated. If you want to have the nice things, the BMWs, the Gucci's, the fancy vacations, all the nice expensive stuff, how do you actually know that you can afford it? One of the first questions that I want to know is, can I get a tax deduction from making this purchase? Because if I can get a write-off, then it's a little bit easier to sometimes justify this purchase. Now, it's a little bit easier for me because